Hi everybody, and welcome to day 28 of Freedom from Anxiety in Uncertain Times. And it's Saturday, so if you're here with me live, do say hello and let me know who's here. So we're day 28. We're coming to the end of this 30-day exploration together. And I guess it's time to start bringing it full circle before we get to day 30. So I've been sharing an understanding of how we, as human beings, create our life experience from the inside out. We've been exploring how our psychology works, and we've been exploring our spiritual nature. Now, as human beings, we are the intersection where our psychology meets our spiritual nature. And that's what we've been exploring. How we can tap into that intersection or that place where our spiritual nature meets our psychology. But as Laura was saying yesterday, hi Rose, glad you're here. As Laura was saying yesterday, we don't want to discount our personal mind because the mind is a tremendous resource that we have available to us. Now, we talked about when you're doing something like public speaking or going on a date, how you don't want to have too much on your mind, and particularly you don't want to have too much of yourself on your mind, because that's when the nerves kicked in. And the reason for that is because the more we have of ourselves on our mind when we go on a date or go to do public speaking or go on an interview or anything like that, the less likely we are to remember what we actually know, because the thinking just gets in the way. And what happens is that we can become a worse version of ourselves in situations where we're trying to show up as the best version of ourselves. Now, this is on a scale. When we're really at our best, then life flows through us, our thinking flows through us, and we can be incredibly capable. But on the other end of the scale, when we're at our worst, we've all been there. Sometimes we can feel like stuttering fools. And there's none of us immune from being at our worst sometimes. So it's important to recognize that. But as I was saying earlier in the week, there's a huge invisible variable called state of mind that's on that scale. And there's also a huge misunderstanding in the world. And the misunderstanding makes being at your best really difficult. And sometimes it can seem near impossible. And the major misconception that gets in the way of us getting the most out of our mind is that we have to think about that. And we have to think our way to being our best and to showing up as our best. That's the misconception. And it looks and sounds so logical. Now, it's completely understandable because I was raised this way too. And, I was raised to actively think. That's what I mean when I say, when we're thinking. So I was raised to concentrate, to analyze, to process, to pick things apart. And I wouldn't have said this before, and I wouldn't even have thought this before, but all that active thinking is actually what leads to ruminating, worrying, and anxious thinking. If you really stop and think about it, that's actually what's happening. So, this is true for any kind of active thought. And the concept or the thinking behind this is that our brain is like a computer. And if we don't do anything with our little brain computer, then it's just a box. But if we do something with it, then we can do wonderful things. As long as we're using the right programs and the right apps and all that good stuff. But the mind doesn't work like that, as I keep saying, because the mind is a biological computer. It's a biological entity, and it's an energetic entity. And we don't really fully understand it. And we can't really fully understand it, because that's part of the mystery of life. But we can observe that when we're not at our best, or we can observe that when we're not at our best, that we are actively thinking and processing and concentrating and analysing. Now, I'm not talking about when you have no thought. I'm talking about when you're actively engaging with your thinking. Now, we talked about sports and being in the zone as well. And, this is also true if you look at training for emergency response situations, martial arts, lots of other situations. But it's not recognised in our general lives. And it's not recognised, certainly in business, that like in those training, people are taught to calm down and to slow down and to not overthink things too much. And yet we all seem to do the exact opposite in most of our life. So when we have challenges, when we have difficulties, when we have problems, when we have situations that need dealing with, we act as if the more we think about it and the more that we process it and the more that we analyse it, the more we're going to be able to tap into the potential of our brain. That's basically the premise that's going on. And I guess I'm asking you to just take a step back and consider, is that true? Because given what I know, and given my observations of the transformation that's happened for me, and the observations in the people that I work with and the people around me, that's a big misunderstanding. And it's one that has created a heck of a lot of suffering for an awful lot of people. So what I do see is that when our minds are left alone, and when our thinking is left in neutral, and when we can step back and allow our thoughts to pass on through, that's actually when our minds are at our best. Our best thinking seems to pop up out of the blue. It's really not the end of an analytical process. And if you look back on your life, you'll probably see examples of that too. And it's true in everything. Even in the greatest scientific discoveries and breakthroughs in the world, this is true. The greatest scientists report getting their biggest aha moments when they're sitting under an apple tree or sitting in the bath. And for us, it might be when we're going for a walk in nature, or when we're taking a break, or just going for a drink of water even, that something comes through. So this is where we get our best thinking, because our mind is an expensive intelligence, and we just need to leave it alone. But we do get to use it, and we do get to benefit from it, and it's at its least restricted when we're not kind of focusing in and narrowing it down on something, but when we leave it open and leave it expansive and leave that space there, that's when it seems to work at its best and serve us best. So think of the mind like a live streaming computer. So just like we're live streaming here, we're like the internet. So the internet is live streaming. But if somebody is interfering with the computer all the time and tapping on the keyboard and looking at all the settings, then the Wi-Fi might shut down. And if the Wi-Fi shuts down, then all you're left with is what's on the C drive on your computer. And if you start opening up too many windows and too many applications, then that starts getting clunky, and it starts to slow down, and the processing gets stunted, and the operating system becomes destabilized. And it's the same thing for us. So today I'm pointing you towards considering that the way we can get the most out of our mind is as fundamentally simple as just realizing that it's live streaming, and that live streaming is our automatic default factory setting. Nothing for us to do to make that happen. That's all built into the design. So it's realizing that it's our thinking gets in the way. So the opportunity, I guess, for you today is to consider that all the thinking that you do in your life in order to show up as your best self may very well be the thing that's getting in the way of your doing that. So that's today's message. Now, before I leave you today, I just want to let you know that if you do want to continue with this exploration beyond November 30th, that we have now set up a Facebook group called Reconnect with Heart, and it'll be ready to accept new members later today. We're just putting the finishing touches to it. So I'm going to put the link up in the comments section, and if that's something that you'd like to do, feel free to join up, and you might not hear from us until tomorrow, until we have all the finishing touches put to it, but we're nearly there. And in December I will do a weekly live, and I may do some impromptu ones as well, but I will pop into the group every day just to see what's going on there and to answer any questions and look at any comments, and I'll be posting something, a daily reflection there every day for the month of December, just to keep us in this space and to keep us reminded of the direction that we want to look in and what it is that we're exploring. So that's it for today. I will see you all tomorrow for day 29, and have a lovely Saturday, and take care, and talk to you all soon. Love to all. Bye bye.